This is Jason Reed Pratt, author of Cry of Justice! Have you ever had a brother who likes to play Monopoly sometimes with his wife and daughters, and so you gave him for Father's Day a copy of U. Rosenberg's French, and yet also German because the designer is German, Ultra Monopoly card game, Le Havre, the complete edition, published by Mayfair Games, but then he took it home before you could get around to explaining how to set up and play the thing because his daughters wanted to learn how to shoot pool instead, but not for money! Me too! Fortunately, there's a good recreation of this game as a free, and probably copyright violating, module on Tabletop Simulator, which includes all the card variants found in the complete edition. Unfortunately, going through all the setup information for a full 4-player game with some instruction on how to figure out how to set up a faster and or fewer playered game takes a lot of time. Fortunately, setup does not take anywhere near that amount of time once you're familiar with what you're doing, assuming you've already popped the cardboard pieces out. Since I'm already familiar with playing, mostly, sort of, it wouldn't be fair for me to play an imaginary game against Bro and his family. So I'll just be the umpire, and as you can see, I've set them up around the table. Claire has red hair, Lydia has blonde hair. Bro is a banker in real life, and likely to win any game involving monetary investment, so he's the green player, leaving Melissa as blue by the process of deduction, and I'm sorry I can't think of a rationale for that color. The game rules are the same for any number of players. The only difference is in the setup, which can get a little complicated. Everyone has been given a color, and a rules summary card, and a player chip, and a ship of your color. The ships can all go here, ready to start. I've decided Claire will be the first player, and we'll play counterclockwise, so that the real-life banker will go last. This marker just reminds that Claire will go first, but once we get started, it won't matter anymore. I'll be demonstrating a 4-player full game. The game setup card looks like this, and mainly reminds you that you won't be deducting any standard buildings, which would be listed here, and that you'll be using all 20 of the round or end of week cards in this order. For your first game, you should find all the blank orange cards and permanently set them aside somewhere. You'll use those to recreate any lost or dog-eating cards someday, or to invent your own cards if you like. I don't have any in the modules, so I can't show you what they look like. You'll just have to find them. A short game wouldn't use any special buildings, but in any full game, you'll shuffle all the orange and the clear special cards together and draw off 6 face down over here, putting the rest back in their bag. The orange cards come from the expansion. The 3 starting properties are set out of the standard property cards over here, along with any others specified by your starting card, which will be none in our case for a full 4-player game. These are properties built by the town before the game starts. This TTS module is heavily scripted and I can't turn it off or use an unscripted module yet, so sometimes when I set down cards they're just going to flip upside down. Just be patient with it, I'll rotate them around. You can use the backs of the standard properties to figure out which cards to remove or to add to the starting properties, and the setup card will also summarize that to some extent, although none will be removed in this case. Shuffle the remaining properties together, which is all of them in our case, and deal them out face up into 3 stacks. This next part takes the longest in real life, and there are various ways of doing it. You need to sort each stack so that the cards from the highest corner number will be on the bottom of each stack, going up to the lowest number on the top of each stack. It's okay for everyone to see these cards. In fact, ideally, you should fan them out so that at least the bottom strip of each card is showing. That way players can plan ahead if they want. This TTS module gets a little wonky when I try to fan the cards out, so I'm going to just make 3 stacks instead of fanning them up. If you do that in real life, they will go off your board when you fan them, and that's okay. If you end up with 1 or 2 stacks that have an extra card, that's okay too, but in a full game like this, all 30 after the 3 starting cards will be used. So you should have 3 stacks of 10, plus the 3 starting cards. Rounding around the corner, you'll need to take the end of round cards, they all have ships on their backs, and sort them according to the row with the number of players. And then across here shows the tan numbers for a full game or clear for a shorter game. This is not a random shuffle. The order will always be the same depending on the type of game you're playing. For this demo, I'm showing a full 4-player game, so all 20 cards will be used, number 1 on top down to number 20. If you're playing a different kind of game, different cards will show up as number 1, 2, 3, and so forth, and perhaps in a slightly different order, as we'll see later, and later cards won't be used at all. Just set those aside. The stack of loan cards go here. They're all the same, no need to shuffle them. I should mention here that aside from the properties and the end of week cards, all cardboard chips and these loan cards are technically infinite. If you run out somehow, you're allowed to make more or use designations like putting a 5 franc piece on a loan to show 5 loans. This is especially important with loans because you must not ever run out of those. They keep everyone in the game until the end. You can pile or stack the goods into the warehouses as you wish, or keep them in your bags away from the board. Just be sure to give players the proper side up when you deal them out. If they earn some clay, give them clay, not bricks, for example. Or if they earn some steaks, give them steaks, not cows. You'll have 7 of these round river water circles. Flip them so that only the water is showing, and then scramble them. I'm putting them into a shuffle bag because these tokens don't shuffle in Tabletop Simulator when stacked, and it's hard for me to physically scramble them in TTS's physics engine. You should put them face down, 1 per slot along the river. But if you want to draw them off your scramble pile as you go along, that's fine too. Just make sure you can't see the resource sides ahead of time. Your board will show the number of starting goods to place on the wharfs during a full game. The short game rules are summarized up here under the special buildings, which are never used in any short game, so the rules are easy to see in that case. 5 francs and 1 coal are given to each player, but the short game setup rules will specify more. I can already tell that on TTS it might be better not to have these handy resource charts, because it's hard to tell when only a few resources are stacked on the slots. So I'll delete them. And with that, we're ready to start round 1, or week 1 if you prefer. There are 2 phases for every player's turn during a week, and a player may have more than 1 turn during each week. First is the supply phase. Claire, as the starting player, puts her red ship at the head of the line. The first time a ship enters a space, you'll flip the river counter over to reveal what resources will be processed by the game onto the docks on that day of the week. In this case, 1 more stack of wood and 1 more herd of cattle. There might be only 1 cow there, I'm not sure. It's 1 gold francs worth of cattle, anyway. Notice, these 2 counters do not necessarily belong to Claire. They go on the proper docks. Each player at the start of your turns will place your ship at the head of the line and drop the indicated resources off at the docks, where they'll keep piling up until somebody takes them. What's happening in the game is that the Republic of France, not long before the original setting of Monopoly, has decided to sponsor the modernization and expansion of the harbor town of Le Havre on the northern coast of France near Belgium. This is also where we get the word harbor in English. So the town elders have a list of contracts roughly sorted in the order they want built, although they'll also build some properties themselves, like the 3 starting properties. The players each have a small shipping business already, which is running automatically in the background. You've all got ships going out, buying or selling things, and then bringing back a net increase of either goods or profit in gold francs. Claire might now say, but I don't want to bring back a wood and a cow. I want to make my own choices. Well, you will. In effect, when you take a stack of something from its dock, you're telling the game that you instructed your ship to trade for 3 wood, or to buy and sell goods in cities around the coast and bring back 2 gold francs in profit, or whatever. You can determine for your main action that what your ship has actually brought back to you. Now Claire takes 1 and only 1 main action. You can either pick up all the supplies off 1 dock, including any cash piling up over here, or you can send your agent to a property and use its ability. Your agent is your little colored circle here. This game starts with only 3 properties already built by the town, but you can send your agent to use the town's properties too, or to another player's properties, or to your properties once you get them. The difference is that using someone else's property, including the town's, almost always costs you some rent in food or gold. If you send your agent up here to Building Firm 6, you can see you have to pay the owner, the town in this case, 1 food, or you can pay in gold if you want. If it only shows gold, you must pay in gold, not food. In some properties, like Building Firm 4 over here, using the property never costs anything. Now, while you can only use a property or pick up resources once on your turn, you can buy and sell properties or pay off loans as much as you're able and as much as you want to. In fact, the rules technically allow you to do this on other players' turns too, but it's usually easier and less likely to lead to shouting if you just make a rule that you have to wait your turn. Otherwise, someone might buy up a property that someone else was about to build or use. A property's buying cost is usually its value, so if Claire buys building firm 4 over there for 4 gold, that property will count at least 4 gold for her at the end of the game, if she still has it. There are rare ways to increase the value of some buildings at the end of the game, but not before. If she buys that property, she can sell it to the town again, but she'll only get 2 gold back, half of its value. Players can only sell buildings to the town, by the way, not to other players. So with 5 gold, and with no resources except 1 coal, Claire's choices are pretty simple right now. There's no point sending her agent anywhere yet because all everyone starts with is 1 load of coal, and you can't use coal to build anything. So she might as well pick up a pile of resources on the wharf. Claire's like, "Yeah, I get the money!" So she grabs the 2 gold from the dock. This means her ship has bought and sold in other ports and came back with a profit of 2 gold. Now, that's her main action. Grab the resources or send your agent to use a property. She took the cash. But she can buy and sell as much as she's able. So Claire's like, "Yeah, I get to buy the first property! Woohoo!" Well, with 7 gold, which is her original 5 and 2 she just picked up, she can afford to buy either of the building firms from the town, but not the construction firm. That costs 8 gold. Or she could pay to build the marketplace, which costs 6, but not either of these other properties, which costs a lot more. So what do these do? The building firms each do the same thing. They allow any player's agent to spend resources to build 1 town contract building. If they each do the same thing, why does one cost more? The fictional Claire asked. Because to use that one, building firm 6, another player must pay you rent, 1 food or gold, their choice. So it's going to generate a profit for you if other players are using it. The marketplace, meanwhile, allows a player's agent to take 1 each of 2 different standard goods. That's the front side of these things. Plus 1 more different good for every property that the player owns with a little house icon on it. The building firms are small buildings like that. So is the fishery. In return, if a different player is using your marketplace, they must pay either 1 gold or 2 food. Or, I suppose, 2 gold instead of 1 if they really want to. Claire likes the idea of charging more rent to use her stuff, so she buys this as her first property. We'll put properties here, and she pays 5 plus 1 gold back to the bank. Although there is an infinite stack of gold here in TTS, so I can just delete these pieces going forward. Everyone else at this point was probably saying, "No, wait, Claire, if you get 2 wood, you can just pay that for your building." We'll say she's just suspicious that they'd rather get this great property first, and so she did it anyway. Is Claire ahead now? Yes, but not because she bought this property. It's because she picked up, or brought back in effect, those 2 gold, so her worth is currently 7 gold. It happens that 6 of that 7 gold is now sitting in this property value, which in this game will not ever go down, although it might go up toward the end of the game. On Tuesday, 1 wood and 1 clay will be added to the docks. Lydia does have 4 gold, or her starting 5 gold rather, so not to be outdone, she decides she'll buy the building firm 4. Now, she has a property too. But Lydia hasn't even taken her main action yet. Remember, you can buy and sell properties as much as you want, or as much as you're able. So Lydia decides to pick up all 4 wood piles on the dock. That ends her turn. Melissa, their mother, goes next, and on Wednesday the game puts out another wood and a 3rd fish. You'll notice this chip also says interest. If you run out of food and gold and you can't contribute to the Sunday feast of your workers, they'll quit and go to work for someone else. The game won't allow you to lose like that, so you'll automatically get a loan for 4 francs from the bank. On this day each week, everyone with any amount of loans must pay the bank 1 franc. Or if you can't, you get another loan, and then pay off from that. Melissa, who likes to cook, and who has a master's degree in logistics, says, "Wait, what? We have to have food?" Yep. In a 5-player game, you don't have to contribute food the first week, but in a 4-player game, everyone must pay out 1 gold coin's worth of food, or 1 gold coin, your choice. How do you get food? Well, most food you have to make from grain or cows, which no one has any of right now, but your workers don't mind having a fish fry, so you can give fish as food. They're on ice, so they'll keep fresh throughout the whole game if necessary. As you can see here on the chip, 1 fish chip, no pun intended, equals 1 food. And here on the dock are 3 piles of fish on ice, waiting for someone to take them. Melissa, being nice, asks if she can take just 1 fish and leave some for the other players to take. Nope, all of a dock's goods have to be taken. Melissa, also being cutthroat at winning these games, decides that's fine and takes all the fish. That's her main action this turn. She only has 5 gold, so she can't afford any of the properties right now. Thus, it comes to the bro. Thursday in this particular game, we now learn will spawn a fish and a grain. Spencer uses his main action to take both clay piles. He can't buy anything, so that's his turn. Claire's turn comes back around, and we discover that on Fridays for this game, 1 wood and 1 gold franc are processed. Claire's ship jumps ahead of the line as a reminder that it is her turn. Claire only has 1 gold to use, and she asks, to make sure, can I pay for my workers' Sunday feast with that? Yes, she can. She asks, if I take a cow, can they eat that? No, that's too much work to do on a Sunday. Same with a pile of grain. It's too late to bake it into bread on Sunday. Claire thinks a moment and decides she would rather keep her remaining gold for using somewhere else, so she takes 1 fish for the Sunday feast later. That ends her last turn for this round. Lydia jokingly asks whether they can eat coal, like giving naughty kids coal in their stockings for Christmas. Or rotten potatoes, bro adds, while the girls grimace. No, they can't eat coal. So what's coal for anyway, she reasonably asks, which she was leading to with the joke, of course. Some properties need energy to use their ability, and that's mostly what coal is for. The bakehouse up here on the contractor plans uses energy like that. A player can trade in any amount of grain for the same amount of bread in return, if they also pay 1/2 energy per grain, rounded up. All rounding in this game is always against the player. You'd also earn 1/2 a gold coin per pile of bread, rounded down. So normally a player would go here, pay 1 food or 1 gold if this was not their property, trade in at least 2 grains, spend 1 energy, and get back 2 piles of bread and 1 gold. Nifty! And this ability is only limited by how much grain and energy you have. Each pile of coal, and everyone starts with 1 pile, generates 3 energy, enough to cook 6 piles of grain into 6 piles of bread and also earn 3 gold coins on the side. You can tell whether a resource generates energy by the light bulb in the corner. Notice each pile of wood can also be burned for 1 energy. So Lydia is the energy princess right now. But she doesn't have any food, and the bakehouse hasn't been built yet. Nor does she have anything to build it with, and even then she'd need another turn to go use it. She asks, to be sure, will her 1 remaining gold work for the Sunday feast? And yes, it will. Oh, wait, we haven't done her supply yet. Saturday, we find out, this game will hereafter bring 1 fish and 1 clay. Well, she could pick up the fish and save her gold for later, like Claire did, but if she sends her agent over to Claire's marketplace, she can get more than 1 fish. This costs Lydia either 1 gold or 2 food. Her choice, and she has no food, so she pays Claire 1 gold, which of course tickles Claire. Now she's even more in the lead. For that, Lydia can now take any 2 different standard goods, not from the docks, but from the marketplace. In other words, Lydia will be taking these goods from the supply bags or piles or whatever they're using up here in the warehouse for this module. Plus, she can get 1 more different good for each property Lydia herself owns, which is also a small house. Is her building farm a small house? Yes, it is. See? So Lydia can choose to get 1 of each of 3 standard goods, her choice. 1 will be a fish, of course. She needs the food for Sunday. She was wondering about a cow, and she loves cows, so she decides to get 1 of those. And she doesn't have any clay yet, and she can tell some of those properties need clay to build, so she gets 1 of those. Claire may be ahead in cash value, but Lydia is doing really well in goods. She asks, do these count for gold at the end of the game? Not directly, no, but some properties allow you to convert them into gold. If you buy or build some more ships, and if someone builds the right property, you can sell them to other ports with your agent and convert them to cash. That's what the little numbers in the bottom right corner mean. 1F is 1 franc. 3F is 3 francs. Lydia asks, do I get my agent back now that I'm done? No, that would make sense, but that's not how the game works. He's there until you send him or her to another property. But usually only 1 agent can be in a property at a time, so no one else can use the marketplace while she's there, not even Claire, who owns it. This ends Lydia's last turn this round. She doesn't want to sell her only property, she can't buy anything else, and while the marketplace would allow her to look at the upcoming special properties, she doesn't know enough about the game to have an opinion about which one should come next. Melissa will have the final turn this round, not Spencer. Bro asks, wait, so then what happens? Lydia starts next round? Nope, he'll start next round, and the ships will continue to loop forward like that for the rest of the game. Anyway, for Sundays, this game of Le Havre will bring 1 gold and 1 pile of iron bars. Melissa asks if she has to feed her workers now. No, she can take her turn first, and then everyone feeds their workers at once. Well, she doesn't have any resources to build anything with yet, and she can't buy anything yet, and Lydia is blocking her and everyone else from using the marketplace. So, after some thought, she chooses to pick up the iron. That ends her turn. The end of round 1 is here. First, everyone pays 1 food, or gold, for their workers' Sunday feast. Claire pays 1 fish. So does Lydia. Melissa has 3 fish, so she'll have 2 left over for later, on ice. They won't rot. That leaves Bro. He has 2 clays and a pile of coal. But at least no rotten potatoes, Lydia taunts him. So Bro has to spend 1 gold, leaving 4 left over. Also, according to the card over here, this week has been a harvest. So every player with at least 1 wheat gets another wheat. And every player with at least 2 cows gets another cow. As it happens, nobody has any wheat, and Lydia only has 1 cow, so nobody gets extra this round. Sometimes the town will build a property at the end of a round. That would happen, as you can see up here, in a 1-player full game, but not for a 4-player game. Lastly, the round card is flipped over to show a wooden ship. This gets placed in the wooden ship pile. This ship doesn't really exist yet. It just means there are skilled workers around now who can be hired to build one. It can be built or bought outright, but notice that its cost of 14 is a lot more than its value of 2 gold. Ships are one of the few things in this game which depreciate in value after you buy them. But you can use them to sell goods using your agent in the shipping line property whenever that gets built, and at the end of the week they will automatically bring you food. 2 food from a wooden ship in a 4-player game like this one. That saves you the equivalent of 2 gold per week on food. For a cost of 5 wood and 3 energy, which means 1 coal, that's pretty good, if you build it early enough. But a wharf must be bought or built first in order to build any ships. At the end of this round, Claire is definitely in the lead with 8 gold value. Lydia only has 4 value, but she has a lot of stuff to work with. Melissa still has her starting 5 gold and a rare pile of iron bars, plus enough fish to feed her crew for another week. Maybe for another 2 weeks. Next Sunday still only needs 1 food. Spencer, like Lydia, only has 4 gold value, but his is still in gold coins, so he can do more with it. And while he only has 2 clay piles so far, he has also only had 1 turn yet. We'll see what happens next episode, when it will be Now, Bro's Turn of Doom. Doom, 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 doom.